And the FDA could decide on booster shots for the general public as soon as tomorrow. Pfizer says the vaccine's efficacy diminishes after several months, but some FDA scientists argue the current two-dose regimen still offers enough protection. Meanwhile, COVID hospitalizations are hitting record highs in 9 states. ABC's Whit Johnson has the latest.
The looming question of whether vaccinated Americans are ready for booster shots could be answered as early as tomorrow, when an FDA panel is expected to vote on a recommendation. This morning, Pfizer is making the case that a third shot is needed for those 16 and older, about 6 months after receiving their second dose.
What we've seen is increases in cases and breakthrough cases as time goes on, just because of a waning immunity. And this is why this booster question is coming into play right now.
Pfizer also suggesting the reduction in vaccine protection is likely not due to the Delta variant, but instead vaccine effectiveness decreases with increasing time since being fully vaccinated. Pfizer saying vaccine efficacy against symptomatic disease was 96% a week after the second dose, but then dropped to nearly 84% after 4 months. But some at the FDA have responded with skepticism, arguing in its report accompanying Pfizer's data that the vaccines at their currently approved doses still afford protection against severe COVID-19 disease and death in the United States. Moderna citing new data saying people who received its vaccine should get a third dose as well.
It's not the kind of thing that you want to miss by 6 months. You'd rather be a little too early than a little too late, because ultimately lives are at stake.
Moderna following Pfizer's 6-month timeline, but says its booster will only be a half dose, arguing that provides more than enough protection. The conversation over booster shots heating up as COVID-19 cases and deaths continue to climb. Hospitalizations in 9 states hitting new record highs, including Washington, where doctors have been treating overflow patients from neighboring states, now with a dire warning that space is running out.
If we get to the point where we can no longer accept patients, you're going to have patients that die as a result of lack of available care.
Now, the Biden administration's timeline for booster shots on September 20th might be delayed because another step in this process goes through a CDC panel, and they're not meeting until next Wednesday. So boosters likely won't be available until late next week at the earliest. But the White House says they're ready to roll out those shots to 80,000 locations across the country if approved. Diane?
All right, Whit Johnson, thanks for that. An emergency physician and ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton is here with more on all of this. So, Dr. Sutton, what is the FDA considering as they weigh these booster shots, and what is the process to get it to full authorization?
Great question. So tomorrow the FDA is discussing the information or validity on whether or not we need a booster, but I just want to clear up some basic concepts. There's no argument on whether or not we should get a booster, because we can't expect that vaccines are 100% infinite in terms of their durability. The question is when is the best time to give the booster? Is it now, or do we wait to see the possibility of waning effectiveness in the future? And that's what that research that comes from Pfizer is. That's why it's helpful, because they see that there's a slight wane in the efficacy, or excuse me, the effectiveness of the vaccine over time, but it doesn't simply go away. And vaccines are still proving to be incredibly effective. So that is a lot of the controversy right now. Not if we need a booster, just simply when. And
we've heard a lot of people saying the priority right now is getting the unvaccinated vaccinated. So what do you say to the criticism that booster shots, those doses, instead should go to countries that need vaccine if we have a surplus?
I absolutely agree with that. When we think about vaccine equity, it is of utmost importance, especially in the setting of this global pandemic. We have countries going through uncontrolled transmission, and when that happens, it leads to the increased possibility of a new variant that can be developed in the future that can negatively affect all of the hard work that we've done. So I do think that the priority should be on the unvaccinated, especially those countries who have incredibly low vaccination rates and many people desperate to get the vaccine. And then beyond that, we can look at those who are high risk who got vaccinated. And that includes my patients who are older than the age of 65, my patients who are immune compromised, immune suppressed, or people like me who are constantly exposed to highly infectious people.
Now, will they be put in a separate category in this evaluation?
Who?
The immune compromised, the elderly, et cetera, people who maybe weren't able to form as robust an immune response to the 2 doses.
Now, that is when the next step of the process happens. So tomorrow the FDA decides on the approval, and then the CDC next week will come up with clinical recommendations. And during that time, they will make recommendations. These are career scientists who talk to doctors like me about what is best for the general public. So we'll probably see information like that next week.
And then I want to shift gears a little bit, because Nicki Minaj made a lot of headlines, getting a lot of attention after tweeting that Her cousin's friend became impotent from the vaccine, and that's why she says she doesn't want it. There have been a lot of claims thrown around about the vaccine and fertility for both men and women. So can you set the record straight on this?
Absolutely. I saw that viral tweet, and I tried my best to provide some clarity, and I'll do it right here. So COVID-19 vaccines are not associated with impotence. What is associated with impotence is the COVID-19 infection. We've seen in previous studies that those who have been infected have a higher increased possibility of impotence, and that is something that you should pay attention to, and if you want to prevent that, you should get vaccinated. As far as fertility, pregnancy, and breastfeeding, we have seen no clinical indications that COVID-19 vaccines affect any of these, but those who are infected with COVID-19 have a higher risk of pregnancy loss and a higher risk of long-term outcomes, which could affect fertility. So at the end of the day, if we're trying to decrease our risk for these possible medical complications of the COVID-19 virus, we should all get vaccinated.
Now, that being said, I do know of people who say that they experienced irregularities in their menstrual cycle after getting the vaccine. So you can understand how that would make someone hesitant. Can you explain what's happening there?
Absolutely. And I've talked to patients as well as my colleagues in obstetrics and gynecology about this subject. And while there is no causal specific link between changes in menstrual cycle that has been documented, I do know that when I talk to gynecologists who have been doing this for their career, they simply respond, oh, naturally, of course that would happen. And the reasoning behind this is because the COVID-19 vaccination is an acute inflammatory process, and that, as well as stress or lifestyle changes, can affect one's menstrual cycle. So that is something that could be seen, but lo and behold, at the end of the day, it does not affect fertility. We have no concerns of that. So I do think it's important to acknowledge that, because if any change happens in someone's life, they should know about it. So I'm really appreciative that you asked that question.
Dr. Sutton, great to have you. We appreciate you clearing things up for us.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.